Hey guys, and welcome to Comparing Constitutions. I'm your host, Tiffany Pramal. For those of you that are tuning in for the first time, this is a show where we call two different audience members originating from different parts of the world and ask them some questions pertaining to their constitution. So the purpose of this show is to develop a greater understanding of the similarities and differences that exist between these constitutions and develop a better appreciation and understanding for the bodies of law that govern these countries. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. All right, guys, so the votes are in, and based on a substantial number, the area of focus for the constitutional debate today is going to be on the freedom of religion. So the ballots are up. Thank you to everyone who participated, and we chose two audience members at random who I will be announcing now. So the first person who we will be contacting is Mariana Espinoza from the Philippines. And the next one, Taylor Lachlan from Australia. So let's just give them a round of applause. Thank you so much for participating, and thank you for all those who participated. Feel free to do it on the next segment. You never know, you might get chosen. And I look forward to contacting you, Taylor and Mariana, within the next few minutes so that we can start talking about your constitutions. Okay, so just before we begin, I want to give a big thank you to Mariana for not only participating in this exercise, but also supporting our channel. It is audience members like you that keep us going, so we really appreciate it. So just getting straight into it, I will be asking questions submitted by audience members, and Mariana, just feel free to answer it however it best suits you. So without further ado, the first one is, tell me a bit of history regarding the Filipino Constitution, keeping in mind that we are focusing on the freedom of religion. Hey Tiffany, I just wanted to start off by saying thank you so much for having me on your show. I watch you guys all the time, and I can't believe I actually get the chance to participate in one of them. So as per your question, I just want to start off by saying religion generally is very important in the Philippines. Even just by looking at the Constitution first glance, there is a strong appreciation for God as the creator and savior of our nation. I would say a majority of the Filipinos are Christian, so Catholicism is the major religion. However, there is diversity in the Philippines, which allows the expression of other religions. And this is mentioned within the Constitution. Also, it does mention that no other religion shall prevail over another. And I think this fact is especially important because it really shows the open-mindedness of the Filipino community in adopting and understanding that there are multiple religions, and we live in such a diversified time. The acceptance of multiple religions' beliefs is something all constitutions should adopt. All right, Mariana, that was a very strong start. Thank you for that. I was especially intrigued on the point you made pertaining to the open-mindedness of the Filipino community in accepting the diversification of other religions. And I just wanted to add something because I read a court case recently, Estrada versus Escorido, and in this case, we have a woman, Estrada, who was living with a married man, Luciano, and she worked for the court. She was actually fired for living with this married man. Both of the individuals were in the process of trying to separate from their previous spouses, but I'm sure, as you know, it's very difficult because of the adherence to the Roman Catholic faith, which does not permit divorce. Ultimately, she ruled that her living with this man, Luciano, was permitted by her religious leader of the Jehovah Witness, which she was a part of. And there were certain criteria that she had to abide by in order to live with him, which she claimed that she was. So she argued for freedom of religious expression, and the Supreme Court did rule in favor of her, respecting the fact that this was part of her religious belief, and this was granted by her religion. That was actually a really good case, and I wasn't aware of that one. I'm just going to throw in another one I found that I feel like you may be interested in. And this one is called the Abraling versus Division Superintendent of School of Cebu. So in this particular case, students of a public school were expected to participate in certain patriotic Filipino ceremonies based on religious beliefs. A particular group of students was prohibited from joining them, and they were part of the Jehovah Witness group. So because they failed to comply with these ceremonies, they were expelled. And it was ultimately held that being forced to participate was against their religious belief, and they should not have been expelled for complying with their belief system. And the High Court held in favor of this, saying that the religious freedom is a fundamental right and it is of the highest priority. It involves the utmost protection, and it's a relationship between a person and God. So it's extremely important and it's extremely relevant that it be protected within the Filipino Constitution, regardless of what religion it is. Thank you so much, Mariana, for that very relevant case. I always appreciate it when audience members are able to bring in their own case examples. Because at the end of the day, it's not only the audience that's learning, but it's me as well. So thank you for that. Just to recap in general, so based off of the information that you've provided on the Filipino Constitution in relation to religious expression, we know that the Roman Catholic faith is heavily influential on the Filipino Constitution, but it's very nice to see that they are developing and slowly progressing towards a more open view on the diversification of other religions, and that's clearly seen in the two cases that were provided here today. So I just wanted to say thank you so much, Mariana, for providing us with such extensive knowledge on the Filipino Constitution. We actually have our next caller waiting. But once again, thank you so much for supporting the show. And if you have any questions, just feel free to email me or comment on the video below. All right, so next we have Taylor on the line. She is going to be our informant on the Australian Constitution, and I am looking forward to hearing what she has to say. So Taylor, are you there? Hey Tiffany, yes, I'm here. I just wanted to start off by saying thank you so much for having me on your segment this week. I really do watch your shows religiously, pun intended. Just a quick thing, I'm actually a student at Bond University, and I'm currently enrolled in a Australian Constitution class, amazing class with a great professor, Danielle. And one thing that I wanted to know is that she mentioned within our lecture one that a lot of Australians were actually unfamiliar with what was encompassed within the Constitution. In fact, 62%, I believe, said that they thought Australia had a Bill of Rights somewhere encompassed within our Constitution. So it's really great that segments exist like this, because it really does inform everyday citizens of the different laws pertaining to different countries, even their own country, who they may not be familiar with. So yeah, thank you for this. Thank you so much for that, Taylor. I'm really extremely happy to know that this show is doing its job in keeping citizens informed, because at the end of the day, that's why I create it. That's why people participate in it, because they know the importance of understanding the laws, even more so understanding how laws govern different countries, and comparing and contrasting, understanding the differences between them, and learning to appreciate that more. So thank you so much for that. I'm gonna get into our next topic, which is religious expression within the Australian Constitution. And just feel free to throw in any case law. Seeing as you are a law student, I'm sure that there has been some that have been brought up. Yeah, certainly. So I'm just going to start off by just giving a brief introduction as to the history regarding the Australian Constitution. So the Australian Constitution was created in 1788, and this was done so by an influence in both the Christian and non-Christian belief system. Obviously, Christianity was the major influencing factor, though. Even though this was the case, religious freedom hasn't been a substantial feature in Australia's constitutional development, and it's made clear through the different cases that have existed throughout the years, and I'll just be presenting a few. So the first one I'll be talking about is Kruger versus the Commonwealth. So this is a landmark case, and it's also regarded as the Stolen Generations case. So here there were a number of Aboriginals challenging the North Territory Ordinance, saying that the removal of Aboriginal children from their families in order to assimilate them breached Section 116 of the Constitution. And the court ultimately ruled against them and said that they were authorized under the territory's powers, Section 122, to do this. And that for a law to be invalid under Section 116, its objective needed to be directed at achieving an objective, which 116 prohibits. So clearly, freedom of religion is not an express right, but an implied one, and religious freedom is not granted under the Constitution in this particular case. Another one that I was looking at was Adelaide Co. of Jehovah's Witness, Inc. Versus the Commonwealth. So in this particular case, the Jehovah's Witness group applied to the High Court for an injunction to restrain the Commonwealth for trespassing on their property, and they were claiming that they were breaching Section 116. However, once again, the Commonwealth claimed that they were authorized to do this, and it was under the Defense Power Section 51, which granted them authority to do so. So once again, outlining not only an implied right to belief and not an expressed one as most think it to be if it is encompassed within the Constitution. Also, there was a test that we applied in class that I'm just going to quickly apply to these cases. So if we take the two-fold test to determine whether the head of power, that is religious freedom, applies, it is clear that in both circumstances it in fact does. Number one, each case does involve and consist of a religious belief. The Aboriginals have their own customs and belief systems, as the Jehovah's Witness does as well. And there are certain canons that were abided by giving rise to those beliefs. So there are certain customs and practices that each of these religious groups abide by, which clearly indicate that this is a belief system. All right, Taylor, that was a very in-depth and extensive description of the Australian Constitution, and I could not have explained those case laws better myself, so thank you for that, and really good job. Just to conclude, so we have two countries here. We have the Philippines and we have Australia. Both are influenced by the Roman Catholic faith. However, they do choose to interpret cases pertaining to the freedom of religious expression pretty differently. So as per Australia, we see religious expression located in Section 116 of the Constitution, and in the Filipino Constitution, we see it located in Section 5. However, Australia seems to interpret the Constitution in a more narrow way as opposed to the Filipino Constitution. It's just interesting to note that even though these two countries are both influenced by Catholicism, we can very clearly see that the Catholicism plays more of a role in the Filipino Constitution, yet that is the country that seems to be more open to religious diversification. So I guess that's the comparative analysis that can be drawn today, but I'm also very much looking forward to what you guys have to say on the matter. So feel free to comment down below on that. And thank you guys once again for tuning into today's segment. Feel free to comment, like, share, and subscribe, and I look forward to seeing and hearing from you guys next week.